Hey boys and girls, this is Old Man Yells at Clouds for Blue Powder Monkey's Patreon with a little update on the Orycon souvenir program I'm working on, and I realized kind of partway through this little work session that this might be useful information for you. So this is InDesign, which you're laying out multi-page documents, books basically in, and I've created a cover. So this cover is going to be in color, and there's going to be a piece of artwork on it, and then I have to do a logo on it. There's a little margin line right here because it's not a full bleed, meaning that the image isn't going to go off the edges. Normally this bleed line here, you'd extend the image out to that little area, and then the printer would chop it, chukunk, chukunk, that way, in order to have that classic look that we see where the illustration kind of goes off the edge of the book. We do a non-bleed, which means that there's going to be a little space in between here and here, so the artwork kind of fits in a box. This is the cover laid out. Page 1, page 2. Of course, it's a wraparound cover. It's going to be 8.5 by 11, so it'll be folded right down a line here. So this will be the front part of the cover, and this will be the back part of the cover. All right. Now, that said, the artist guest of honor is a guy named Alan M. Clark, who I don't know personally, but he is a big fan of Orycon, sounds like, and they made him the artist guest of honor. He's been around for a while. He's done a bunch of stuff. So I went on to Alan's website, and at some point I've contacted Alan and asked for high resolution images to use for printing. But until that happens, there's no need to bother him with like every fucking step along the way type of thing. So I go on to the website and I just grab screen captures with the keyboard kind of thing. And I find a series of illustration that I want to use. And some of the inside book is going to be black and white, and then the cover will be color and needs to be kind of a wraparound. So these first images that I found here are more than likely ones that I want to use inside the book, and I'll want to basically turn them into kind of black and white images if they're not. This one's pretty close. I just have to make sure the color space it's in is a black and white color space as opposed to a color space that's been tinted or turned black and white. It's a weird little distinction, but you don't have to worry about that. It's possible it's like colored pencils. This one could go in the interior. This is also, you can kind of tell by the texture. That one's gonna look great on the inside. That's gonna look fucking awesome. This has a tint to it. I don't know whether that was the way he scanned it or whether it's the medium, but while it is technically black and white, there's a little bit of brownish kind of tint in this suit. Technically could be my monitor as well. But you can tell like the hair and the face part of it is like legit black and white. And then this and that has a little bit of a color in it. But anyway, it's gonna turn down into black and white pretty well. And then these, now we're getting into these last 4 layers, or ones that I am deciding on whether would be awesome for the cover. And you're like, what is this fucking hot mess? But what this hot mess is this awesome kind of abstract thing that you don't see on souvenir covers for science fiction conventions that often. They're usually more traditional, kind of like a giant elf with a sword or whatever it is. This, however, is colorful and cool. This is the same way. I like the kind of surreal, crazy shit going on over here. So that's a possibility. This fits more towards the theme, which is Don't Fear the Reaper, because it theoretically is the last Orycon. So that's kind of cool. And then this, I actually like quite a bit. It's very busy, but I can make that work. And what I mean by that is I also have to kind of look at it as like, oh, I'm going to need to put some sort of like title, Orycon. I thought it was 25 and laid everything out like it was 25, but I think it's like Orycon 45. I think they've been around for a long time. They have been around for a long time because I think I literally went to one in like the 80s or 90s. Some sort of logo has to go on this thing, right? And you want it to kind of complement the artwork and not fucking clutter up the artwork. So this would be crazy and kind of fun. I would probably do a little squarish shaped thing because there's a lot of sort of square areas in here. And I would have to make kind of a clean board. I would probably juxtapose this chaos with something very clean and simple, kind of elegant up in the corner type of thing. And then This, honestly, and this isn't a testimony to the artwork, this is probably my least favorite of my choices of the cover. I grabbed it. I like it okay, but I think the other ones are stronger. I like the artwork, but I think the choices of cover is not maybe as dynamic. This is cool. There's a lot of stuff going on up in here. I'd probably do something like down right in here as far as that was concerned. And it's nice not having like a traditional cover logo up in the corner kind of thing. And then this, probably again down in here, though there's some stuff going on up in here that'd probably be okay as well. I could get really crazy and just like write it in this dude's robes, but those robes are pretty cool. I also like the fact that I think I would be able to, this isn't exactly the ratio, but I think the split would happen right in here as far as front cover, back cover. So this dude would be creeping off the spine of the cover in this. This is more than likely the one I'm going to start with. What I'm going to do to get to what the point of this actual thing is I'll come across here on this Orycon cover document. I'll Control D, which is the place function. Okay, so I'm going to grab that. I'm going to click on Show Import Options. I'm going to do this. And then it's going to show me all those layers. So right now we're just going to go ahead and start with the one that I was last on, but I could go through and do that. Oop, that, for example, and it would do that. So, donk. And then we're just going to go bam. And then I'm going to align this to begin with. Spread. There we go. All right, that is a lot. Holy cow. And then we're going to grab this little doohickey. Oh, there we go. All right, and oh, there we go. I was like, I know there's a way. All right, so there's a lot of extra space. I didn't want to cut. So when I grabbed these images off the interwebs, I did what's called a screen capture. Which is just control screen capture on your keyboard. Most of you, I'm sure, know how to do that. And it captures your whole monitor. And I, of course, have two monitors. So it captured the whole two monitors. It's like 7,000 pixels across or whatever it is. And then I pasted it, and then I just opened up a document. And when you open up a document in Photoshop, a new document, when you have something on your clipboard that you've captured, it just makes the thing that size. So the original Photoshop document that it opened up was like 7,600 pixels by whatever the height pixels is. And then I go Control V and it just drops both of those, the whole screen, boom, into the middle of it. And it's big. It's super big, right? So I don't want to cut down to the size of the images because the images are different sizes. And more importantly, I need to keep the title of the thing here, because I want to be able to ask the dude, like, hey, buddy, I need this and this and this and this. And so there you go. So anyway, so let's see here. What I could do, if I wanted to save myself a little hassle, that's pretty low, that's pretty low, that's pretty low, that's pretty low. Okay, so I could, if I wanted, like, get up into, that's just one image. And then, so I basically cropped that whole other screen out because I knew I didn't need that. And then I can probably get over into here somewhere. I can get into here-ish somewhere. I can chop these little doohickeys off as long as I'm keeping this. And then, let's try that. Bonk. All right, and then to this right side, that. All right. Yeah. Okay, and then for the right side over here, I can come clear into like here somewhere. Do that. Bonk. All right. So now I save that. I come back into here. This has an error now, and that error is because that link has changed. So I go find this little thing right here. I do this, yoink, and it sort of resets itself. Now I do a Control-Alt-C, and that resets this bounding box around this thing. I also come in here with my little hand grippy tool here, and I check to make sure that this is 100%, and it's not. It's 149%, which is too much, too much. So let's turn this down to 100% for now. Let's resize the border with the Control-Alt-C. Let's pull in just a little bit. And you can see there's my original thing here. And now I've got a lot of extra hanging off the sides. But for right now, W does that. That's basically what this cover would look like. I would include more of the cover. I would shrink this down a little bit so that more was included. But that gives me a rough idea for now, right? It doesn't have to be exact. And so, boom, that's set. And then now I can come over here. You know, I can look at this and go, yeah, this is going to look pretty cool, like overall. And so I can come over here and I need to do a logo. So now I'll grab place, which is Shift-Control-P for some fucking reason. That, let's show import options. And didn't really need to do the import option thing since this one was the default. So let's throw that in here. Now in this case, I can do a clip. Which basically I can highlight that, click them both as long as this is on top, and do a Control-7. And now I just have this. And inside of it, I have the whole thing. So anyway, let's do that. So now I can set this off to the side or put it on top or do whatever I want to do to create a logo and see what a logo would fit like on here. And I'll basically go through and do this for each of the covers, trying to keep kind of the same. I'm not going to invent like an entirely new logo for the thing, but anyway. So once I have that logo set here, then it's back over to InDesign. It's back over to InDesign, and I do the place function, the Control-D function, and I grab that Illustrator file. So let's show you that kind of in a practical sense here with some made-up tomfoolery. Let's do that. Let's do a big first aid cross here. Doesn't matter. Bonk. All right. So let's say I decide that to be my logo, right? And so I come back over here. I do my little Control-D. I grab the Orycon logo for cover. Show import options just in case I end up with more than one file or more than one layer. And, you know, I don't have more than one layer, but I could go through either artboards or layers or whatever I wanted to do, crop to bleed, crop to bounding art, that kind of thing. And then, boom, there it is. So now, having this and this set up on different layers means that I could go back in and I could decide to change my mind on the Photoshop file, right? So I could go to the Photoshop deal and I could be like, well, let's see what this looks like with it, right? So I'm going to save it. I'm going to come back over to here. This is going to tell me that there's my little error. This document's been changed. Let's do that. Oh, there we go. Now I can try it out there. And if I wanted to keep this one, when I placed it, I basically would actively choose this layer. Well, I'm not sure that actually works with Photoshop. That's one of the pain in the asseries. I think every time you resave the Photoshop file with a different layer, it's gonna do a switcheroo. Yeah, see, and it wants to switcheroo here too. So let's go ahead and do this. But the difference is with Illustrator, because again, these programs, even if they work the same, quote unquote, it's different like keyboard commands and functions and shit to do the same things. So, which of course I could go through and fucking, remap all my keyboard stuff. So let's do this. All right, so I've now created a second layer, and I'll save it. But now when I go back into here, there's my error. But it didn't change, right? It didn't change because it's an Illustrator file. And Illustrator files remember what they fucking get told, basically. They're like, oh, you wanted to use this fucking layer. I'm going to use this fucking layer. Now, I just added a layer, and so it needed to update to know that it had a second layer in there. But but for me to use that second layer, I don't even know if I can do it from here, honestly. I think I have to re-import it. That'll check up on. But basically, like, I could delete this and re-import it with that choice, or I could just re-import it. Show imported options. I can come into here. I now have a choice of layers. Do I have a choice of layers? I, in theory, should have a choice of layers. Oh, yes. By clicking layers, I do. So there's the old layer. There's the new layer I created. All right. Boom. Be like, oh, the blue X. That looks pretty good against this blue background. This is too garish. So get rid of that. Boom, logo done. But anyway, that's how you can basically use the three programs together in order to create documents and that kind of thing. InDesign is good for multi-page documents and text layout. If I was just going to do a block of text over here, I would have easier and more options if I did it in InDesign, though the other two programs are capable of doing it. I want to do Photoshop type stuff, meaning color manipulation sometimes, gradients, any kind of drawing. If I wanted to put if I want to draw a little happy face up here or whatever, which always makes the artist really happy when you draw on their fucking shit. That would be a Photoshop job. And then when you come over here in Illustrator, you're designing vector-based stuff. You can do some of the stuff, if not all of the things. You can do gradients and all the rest of that, but you're using an inferior tool to do it. What Illustrator wants to do is clean color, shapes, in order to create logos or things that scale because it's automatically vector. Or if you want to cut out shapes, you can use various tools, and there's a ton of Illustrator stuff to do, stuff like that. So, or stuff like that, or stuff like this, that kind of thing. So learning, you can do all the things in each one, but learning to have the three programs work together a lot of times will save you time and give you more flexibility on the long run of the project. If you have to come back to the project, if you have to make changes, especially if you have a client that has a lot of ideas, clients always seem to have a lot of ideas, then the more flexible you can create your project file, the better. So you're not having to redo stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching or listening, I guess, or both. And take care. Thanks for supporting us, and we'll talk to you later.